following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
Mr. Spock trekked through the desert wastes of Vulcan, his eyes peering deep into space. He was awaiting someone, an old friend who could return him to the stars and to the mind of one he had touched 4 years earlier. James Kirk had answered his friend's call and arrived at Vulcan. If Spock needed him, he would help. He peered out the porthole of his shuttlecraft as it made final approach to landing on Vulcan. The shuttlecraft dipped into Vulcan's atmosphere and sped above the desert inferno below. Spock greeted his friend at the landing port. "Captain," he said, "thank you for coming." "Spock," Kirk replied, "don't call me Captain. I'm an admiral now, but..." Spock cut him off. "Admiral," he began again. "And don't call me Admiral. You're no longer under my command. Call me Jim." "Jim," he said, a little more warmly. "Thank you for answering my call. Anything I can do for you, friend?" Spock placed his palms on Kirk's shoulders. "This is my final opportunity to return to space, Jim." Kirk was taken aback. "Why is that?" he asked. "Recently, I once again was taken by the madness of Pon farr. With no mate to choose for me, I was obligated to undergo Kunit Khalifal, the ritual battle." "Again?" Kirk asked. "It has been over 3 years since you and Dr. McCoy joined me for my previous Pon farr captain, Jim. It seems my human genes activate the 7-year itch 4 years earlier than pure Vulcans." "So I take it you killed your opponent and were victorious?" Spock shook his head. "No, I did not kill my opponent. Kunit Khalifal is not a battle to the death. Neither was I victorious. My opponent pummeled me unconscious in the first round." "Huh," Kirk replied, considering. "He must have been one tough Vulcan." "He is, and emotionally compromised. He is T'Pring's husband, Ston." "Yikes," Kirk exclaimed. "Nasty divorce." "Yes, you might phrase it so. But now that the madness is done, the Vulcan High Priestess expects me to begin the purging of my emotions and the training of my mind in the Kholinar discipline." "I see," Kirk said. "So you called me to take you away on a gap year?" Spock shook his head. "At maximum warp, we can complete this mission in a week." "Mission? I thought you just wanted one last jaunt among the stars." "No, not a jaunt. The Mother Horta is dying, Jim. I have sensed her." "The Horta from Janus 6? "Yes. Another has grown to replace her, and her life runs short. I must meld with her again. The bond we formed has remained strong, powerful enough for me to sense her passing. I must go to her, Jim." "I didn't come all the way to Vulcan just to listen to your whining." Spock's eyebrows lifted in a blur. "Whining, Captain?" he exclaimed, slipping back to the familiar title. "I am not whining, Jim." "Spock, you still can't tell when I'm just pulling your leg." "Pull my leg? Why would you wish to do so?" "Spock," he began, sighing, "I came here, to Vulcan, to answer your need." "Yes," Spock said. "You're my T'Hy'la, Jim. I knew you would come." "Tyla? I don't know that word. Hyla, Spock enunciated. It has a three-part meaning. Friend, brother, Spock hesitated, and lover. Kirk looked at Spock, seemingly in shock. Then he laughed. Spock, I already knew that. 5 years out there together? Even if I didn't know the word, I knew the truth, Spock. This time, Spock raised only one eyebrow. Indeed. Come on, old friend. We have to get you to Janus 6. The shuttlecraft blasted off the pad in the Vulcan desert into a rendezvous with a dying Mother Rock. Once out of Vulcan orbit, the shuttlecraft leapt to warp for Janus 6. Spock gripped Kirk's arm tightly. "Thank you, Jim," he said earnestly. "You are welcome, though I must admit I do not entirely understand your mission. I know that you and the Mother Horta shared a strong union through your mind melds, and that you apparently want to say farewell before she dies, but..." Spock answered emphatically, "Consider it, Jim. The Mother Horta has 1,000 years of knowledge. What a waste to allow all those memories to turn to dust. When we meld again, her memories will become my memories, and her mental heritage will live on, not only in the lessons she gave to her children, but in my mind. In this way, she shall never know death." "And you owe this to her, Spock?" "Perhaps. I know only that she reached out to me, from the caves and tunnels of Janus 6 to the scorching deserts of Vulcan. I was invited to one final mind meld with her to preserve who she was." "Sounds like a debt to me," Kirk concluded. "And I must admit to a selfish motivation, Jim. Her mind is logical, rational, reasonable. I have reason to believe that her mind and my mind will aid me in Kolinahr." Kirk laughed. "You never cease to amaze me, Spock. You're the only man I know who could gain wisdom from a rock." "Perhaps. Indeed, I shall gain wisdom and hopefully give her solace as she approaches death." "I see." The shuttlecraft dropped out of warp and right on top of Janus 6. "We're here, Spock. Entering atmosphere of Janus 6. "Time, Jim," he replied, "is literally of the essence." "Stand by for landing," Kirk told him. The shuttlecraft landed outside the primary tunnel entrance to the mines. Kirk and Spock walked the rest of the way through the wide tunnel until they reached the mining factory itself. Chief Engineer Vanderberg was waiting. "We got your shuttlecraft signal. What can I do for you, gentlemen?" "I have brought Spock here," said Kirk, "to find and mind meld with the Horta Mother." Vanderberg shook his head. "Well, you're certainly welcome to try, but we haven't seen her in months. Some of the junior staff believe she's dead." "She is not dead," said Spock. "I can sense her." "Well, knock yourselves out. And while you're down here, be sure to check out her children. All of us here think they're adorable." "If you're determined to find the mother, I suggest you begin with the major tunnel here. It branches off into God knows how many diverticules and chambers." "Thank you, Chief," said Kirk. "We'll take it from here." "Good hunting," said Vanderberg, who turned and headed back to his office. "Chief Vanderberg is hiding something, Jim," said Spock. "What do you mean? Hiding what?" "I am not certain, but I will endeavor to find out. I have a bad..." Spock paused. "Feeling about him." "I think I know what you mean," Kirk said, and then, Humans have intuition, you know. I suggest taking the chief's directions, however, Spock said. That seems logical to me, Kirk agreed. I sense her, Jim. Definitely down this tunnel. Before we proceed, I will scan for her to be certain, said Spock. Yes, he confirmed. Down this tunnel and then into a labyrinth of other tunnels. Like many animals, she is hiding in preparation for death. Then let's proceed with all haste, said Kirk. Spock handed Kirk his tricorder. Do you see the central spider's web of tunnels? I believe the Mother Horta is hiding in the central hub. Go, Spock. We will have to crouch pretty low to make it through this tunnel, Kirk commented. Yes, this is obviously a transit tunnel for the Mother Horta's young. Spock, look! A young Horta scurried out of the light and deep into the darkness of the cramped tunnel. We will have to crawl through this tunnel, Spock said, but it will lead us directly to the Mother Horta. We have a long way to crawl, Kirk said. Let's get going. After half an hour of pained crawling, the tunnel began to open up a bit more widely. I believe we are approaching the Mother Horta's chamber, said Spock. I will take a quick scan. Yes, Jim, just up ahead now. There she is, Jim, warming herself by that volcanic rock. I must mind meld immediately. Spock placed his palms against the warm rock of the Mother Horta. You are here, she said through Spock. My life's knowledge is yours. Please help the children. The miners have abused our assistance. Many children have died and are dying now, for they are overworked. Most are forced to work without any rest. Please save the children as you did once before. I have nothing left. Farewell. The Mother Horta turned to cold, dead rock under Spock's touch. The half-Vulcan shed a tear for her. She is dead, Jim. Then let's have a serious discussion with Chief Vanderberg, Kirk said. Follow that little Horta, Spock said. There's more to see. The young Horta led Kirk and Spock into a wide chamber. My God, said Kirk. Look at them. Little Hortas were everywhere, motionless, some even in chains. Spock confirmed that they were all dead. Every last one of them. But Spock and Kirk found that the chamber led into an even larger chamber, and this one did have Horta children survivors. These little devils were semi-bioluminescent and scurrying around, quite alive. They're not all dead, Kirk exclaimed happily. No, they are not, said Spock. Feels good to be wrong, doesn't it? In this case, Spock replied, yes. Yes, it does, Jim. Then he said, look over there. What is that? Kirk said. Spock actually smiled. That is the new Mother Horta, and she has already begun laying her eggs. They are emerging from every part of her body. This also is very heartening to discover. Indeed, said Kirk. The Horta are not extinct. How beautiful they are. A young Horta is following us from the previous chamber, reported Spock. Why? Kirk asked. I am receiving strong telepathic signals from it, Jim. I suggest we allow it to continue. There is strong intentionality, though I am at a loss as to give it a name. Nevertheless, it does indeed want to join us. Fine, but let's get back to Vanderberg. I think he needs a tar beaten out of him. As soon as Kirk, Spock, and the young Horta emerged from the labyrinth of tunnels into the miners' artificial corridors, Chief Vanderberg was there with a mob of men. "So now you know," sighed Vanderberg. "Why?" exclaimed Kirk. "Why did you break Federation child labor laws? For what? Money? You killed countless Hortas." "You said it yourself 4 years ago," said Vanderberg. "To get stinking rich." "I was speaking hyperbolically," Kirk snapped back. "I don't understand. You belong to the Federation. We live in a post-scarcity economy. If you were Orion pirates, this would make sense. But instead, you're just behaving like industrial barbarians." "That's enough, Kirk," yelled Vanderberg. "Take that Horta straggler with you and get out of here before I can no longer control my men." "If that's how you want to play it," Kirk barked. Vanderberg and his men produced metal clubs and swung chains at Kirk and Spock. The attack was so sudden that the two friends and their young Horta straggler were pressed against the wall of the cave. "Please tell me you have a phaser, Spock," whispered Kirk. "I do," Spock replied. "A phaser 1. "Me too." "Fire!" The miners, including Chief Engineer Vanderberg, lay unconscious on the cave floor. "Good shooting, Mr. Spock." "Thank you, Jim. I found it stimulating." "Now, let's get out of here and report these jerks to the Federation Council." "Yes, I have had all I can stand of this planet." "That's most emotional of you." "Yes, it is. And let us not forget our new little friend." "Absolutely. He's coming with us." After passing through the atmosphere of Janus 6, Kirk kicked the shuttlecraft into high warp speed for Vulcan. "How did Starfleet Command respond to your report on Janus 6, Jim?" "Well, they're not happy, I can tell you that. Vanderberg just got arrested, and the rest of his men will be mining in a penal colony." "And the Horta?" "The Federation Council is expected to vote on their future protected status. I doubt Janus 6 will ever be mined again, except for Horta's digesting rock, of course." "And how are you, Spock?" "I am well. My mind is full. Not merely a millennium's worth of knowledge, but 50,000 years as my life as a rock." "Incredible." "Yes. With any good fortune, this knowledge should assist me with the Kolinar." "I am glad to hear that. But 50,000 years?" "Time flies," said Spock. "Spock, is that a joke?" "Perhaps." "Now approaching Vulcan, my friend." The shuttlecraft entered the upper atmosphere of Vulcan, homing in on the landing beacon in the desert where Kirk first landed. Skimming the desert floor, the shuttlecraft fired its retro thrusters and landed on a pad in the Vulcan spaceport. In the desert heat, Spock pressed his cool forehead against Kirk's brow. "Thank you, Jim, for one last adventure in space." "Thank you, my Tahila. I hope I was helpful." "More than you will ever know." "Is there anything else I can do for you, old friend?" "Only one thing," Spock said. "Take care of our new little Horta friend." "Oh, I intend to," Kirk responded. "In fact, I plan to sponsor him in entering Starfleet Academy. Do you think he'll be interested?" "I have no doubt you can persuade him to do so," said Spock. "Goodbye, Jim." "Goodbye, Spock. Live long and prosper." "Peace and long life." Kirk and the Horta blasted off the landing pad, headed for deep space and the future.